Your
It's
mic
better,
is
I
so
know.
good.
Yeah.
I don't know why it's not always plugged in.
Well, why. And I'm working on it.
Anyways, yes, no, I appreciate when you have a good mic.
Yeah.
Good morning, people.
Good
Morning, Karen.
morning. Happy Friday.
Is it? I don't know if I'm coming or going right now.
Oh dear. What's going on?
Well, I mean, I try to space my stuff apart. So Thursday mornings, my plan is I have my conversation, I get the kids out of here, whatever. I have a nice window of time, a little buffer if I need to do any last minute preparations for this. And then we have our conversation. At least that's in theory what's supposed to happen. And then I've maybe got an appointment or two in the afternoon. So now that got squished into today. So now I have you. We have to do a little promo thingy. Then I've got a massage. Then I have a client check-in. Then I have a client. And then I have somebody who's going to come help me look at my electrical for my bathroom renovation stuff. And then I go coach. I'm struggling to find minutes in between for a breath, a shower after I get all coconut oiled up, all the things. So I have a few things going on today. So I'm a little nervous about what's to come.
Which is so true, right? About where we are often. And we've talked about you and I and some of the ways we are, that idea of being prepared and kind of having that schedule laid out and how it can, we want to do a good job.
Yeah.
And if something shifts quickly, which has been, I was saying yesterday that how interesting last September, I made an intentional choice to drop two major things that took a good chunk of my time. And thinking I was going to have this nice airy space to just say, okay, well, now what? What I called it my precious time. I don't know if you remember that.
Yeah, I remember that.
What do I want to do with my precious time? And the world, the universe kind of went, wait a minute, I'm just going to put some stuff that's like going to be right in your face. That, you'll know that you need to be part of that. May not be your choice. Interesting, right? Interesting enough about it wasn't necessarily what I thought my choice was going to be, but it's where I'm at. So for me, it's like, okay, when I started to, a couple of weeks ago, I mentioned I did an internal kind of reset button about how am I going to show up? How can I embrace this uncertainty of where I need to be, what I need to do, where do I put my precious time, thinking I was going to schedule it all. So yeah, my check-in would be like, yeah, today, thank you for adjusting, because that plan that we have every Thursday,
I'm not even sure it's happened really on that time yet. However,
I know.
We're
and so being nimble and being, kind to me to say, look, I understand these particular commitments have a structured time, because we're talking about, cancer treatments for people. So that's not negotiable.
Yeah.
So thank you for that. And for me to let go of something that I really wanted to create consistently for myself. But knowing that that's not possible. And if I had to, which you haven't done yet, but if you said, Karen, I'm going to move on, I would have respected that. And I would have been at peace with that, because I know where I am right now. It's important to me. And this is what I'm supposed to be doing, although I didn't design it that way. I don't know if that makes any sense.
Yeah, I think so. I think we have an intention for things to go a certain way, and that's what we're hoping to put out into the world, but it doesn't always manifest the way that we wanted it to. And there's probably some pretty good reason for it that we don't know yet. Right. And we've broken up in the past, Karen. Right?
Yes, we have. Yes, we have. And we made up. No, just kidding. But that's a
No,
really important thing to say, that there is a time, you and I have been in a relationship of working together, being our friendship for, at least 12 years.
yeah, 2013.
Yeah.
But at some point in time, you have to know what it is right for you and to go out and do that thing that's right for you in that moment in time. And at that time, I think you asked me if I wanted to do something, and I was like, I don't think I'm there. I think I've got to go do this other thing. And you were really gracious in understanding that I needed to go and do that thing. Actually, maybe that's a good way to launch today's show of Take the Shot. I actually hadn't planned that it would go in this direction, but at the time I needed to take a chance on do something else. And it actually, funny enough, was the first time I've ever done a podcast before. Now, they were kind of standalone. It was just me talking, and it was on like an internet radio platform. So nothing was visual. It was all auditory. But I learned a lot in the process of creating that. I think I did it for about 6 months. And it was after that 6-month window, and I think I created some of my own material, that I then felt okay for us to get back and do stuff again, because I got a chance to kind of get my sea legs and get my voice out there. So I kind of feel like we're it's been like a cyclical adventure for us as far as this kind of podcast space, or putting out our voice into the world. And each time we've done it, we've had to take a bit of a leap of faith. Take the shot.
Take the shot. What I remember about that time, Ian, I really felt in my heart that you needed to go and find be on your own to navigate, because many years ago, when I started getting into this work, my story is, as you know, Paula Fay, the master coach in the public service, federal public service, was handing over. He was leaving, moving forward and retiring into his next world of coaching, a retired public servant. And he handed me the file. He says, "You're the one." And I remember feeling so small, would be the word. And I'm very, very afraid to take this shot of holding this big file that had momentum and was starting to grow in the public service. And he said, "You're going to be the one that'll take it where it needs to go," and felt very unready. And I remember, as we were doing the knowledge transfer the last year across the country, I was with him. I was his partner. There's the word. And he started to observe me in every session that we were doing the knowledge transfer. I was physically moving further and further back to the back of the room. I didn't know I was doing that, by the way. But my voice in my head was going, "You're not ready for this. He made a mistake. Oh my gosh, this is too much. I don't want this work to go into the trash can. I need to talk to him about this at some point in time." And he picked that up that day, and we went into afterwards, says, "Let's go have a drink in the bar." So we went in, and we were sitting there, and he goes, "What's going on? Why are you making yourself small?" I said, "What do you mean?" And he started to tell me what he was observing. And the tears came in my eyes, and I started to tell my story to him. "I'm not ready for this. You picked the wrong person. There's so many other people that are further along. You need someone that your level of mastery to be able to hold this." And he did this. He always did this when the little voice in the head was going too fast. It was time out. He said, "I'm at my best when you're my equal." And I remember that just sunk in my heart. He said, "If you make yourself small, I have to be small. I have to bring myself down." And I thought, oh my gosh, how often have I done that? And it just struck me. He goes, "When I say partnership, we're equals. That doesn't mean we're the same." And I felt like at that time with you and I could feel it in the both of us. And just as guilty, I was hanging on to so much with rigidity, to just be able to let the work go and share it equally. And I think when we reunited, when I think I reached out to you, it was about 1.5 years. And I had another.
I don't. It's all a blur as to what the time frames were. I just know that we had a significant break in time where we did work together, or didn't do it together.
But I think the key is that it's just interesting about time and taking the shot is, being really afraid, but knowing it's the right thing to do. I think they're connected. They're not apart. The courage to step into the next level of what you want to create or want to do, that fear is there, and then that next step. So, and going away and just kind of finding your own grounding, like really getting to know that what it was for you. When you returned and we partnered again, you had shifted.
Yeah. Yes, I know I did. But sometimes it's hard for me to see the change in myself. It's almost easier when you're having a conversation with someone else for them to let you know what you notice, because you see the bigger gap versus my daily incremental changes or whatnot. And I mean, if I relate that to this podcast, I had an idea. I want to say it was maybe like 4 or 6 months ago, and I laid it out to you, and you're like, I'm not even sure what that is, but cool, let's try it. I remember being so nervous to share. Like, I was super excited when I thought of it, but then when it came time to say something, I'm like, I don't know if I'm want to say it out loud, because if I say it out loud, then I got to do it. And I wasn't sure. I wasn't sure what the uptake would be, and if it wasn't there, would I still go ahead and do it myself, or is this something that I felt needed to be us? But when I finally got over myself and said it anyways, you seem to be kind of on board, even though you still don't know what it is.
But that's what's so cool about. I really want to tap into our. I love our title today, because I think what we do in our work with bringing in people who are wanting to develop some capacity around coaching conversations, want to be able to have that accessible in the conversations they're having. It really takes this is different than what we've ever been taught or overly repeated into give advice, help people, take them somewhere, support them. The mental model, I'm going to build on my other, as you know, my other mentor, Bob Chartier. We have really, really significant mental models that have been downloaded. So when our wonderful coaching buddies come into the work we do, the taking the shot is so important, because it's on a different way of being, a different way of engaging. And so the choice to, like you say, not knowing, I love that you say we still don't know. I feel like that in the coaching world is you really have to trust, what you're developing inside of you, because coaching is about building your capacity so you can serve others in a way that serves them. Have this coaching lens to be able to support people. So taking that shot, knowing it's going to be not your typical rhythm. Maybe you're not going to get a ringer. We actually did a practice in our sessions where we got people to be on teams and have to throw a ball into a hoop to try to, replicate it. And watching the first few times when they were like wanting to get it right and how they were missing the bucket. And then when we started to get them to listen to their voices in the head and calm down and just trust their instincts, how they were getting now, a ringer every single time. How when we just trust we've got it in us. It's not going to be perfect. But if you slow things down and just trust that development, how the capacity comes all on its own. Which I think I was in a bit of a spin about. I kept asking, what's our goals? Like I was in that old mental model, wanting to have it all sorted out before we did this. But I let that go.
Yeah.
Trust the shot. Take the shot.
I was thinking of that same experience. I remember we did it I want to say it was in Ottawa.
Yeah, it was.
For a coaching workshop that we did for over the course of a week or something. And I remember setting that up, and I had never experienced it before. And watching people narrate out loud their inner voice was really like, oh, I'm so bad at this. And why do we do stuff like this? I look like I'm an idiot. Like you hear all of the inner voice outside. And when you're able to then ask them to take pause for a minute and say, hey, did you notice the voices that you heard? And that awareness, that clicking in of, oh yeah, that is my voice. That is the way I show up in a lot of situations that are scary or new, or where I don't feel like I'm good enough. That voice comes up. So imagine if you carry that into our world with the coaching conversation. And I'm like, I'm not good at asking open-ended questions. I never know if I'm always wanting to give advice, and why can't I give advice? And just noticing that chatter is the first step to making any shift and change. It was fun to watch. And we even tried to emulate this in another workshop, and I wish I could show clips of this, but then we'll get like banned from YouTube. But there was a clip that we showed of Barack Obama and Stephen Colbert sitting, they called it waste paper basketball or whatever. And they're both sitting side by side, chit-chatting back and forth, and they're throwing crumpled balls of paper into the waste paper basket to see who could get the most or whatever. And you heard even people who are professional speakers, people who are on stage all the time, who need to show or feel like they need to show some sort of level of competence and confidence and like assuredness in themselves. And you still heard it in them. This isn't fair. Are you crumpling your ball smaller? Like, I think it's closer to you. Whatever, right? You hear the inner voice of people who you would expect or you would think would have that confidence inside of them. So we're not immune. We're all built of the same stuff.
Yeah, and I mean, one other thing that I uncovered as I was in my journey of doing something very, very different to what I had done for over 45 years. I listened to a podcast on Pima Schroden, and she talked about comfort zone. And she says, many of us like that. But what happens, and this is what struck me, and you can see it as you age, as I'm into the next phase, as you know. When we stay in our comfort zone, even if it's very competent in it, we enjoy it, it actually shrinks as we move forward. Our comfort zone becomes smaller because we're not pushing the edges of comfort to grow. So in order to build more space in our comfort zone, we have to be uncomfortable. And she talked about that. In our coaching work with Integral Coaching Canada, we call it edge development. To really push your edge. It doesn't mean radical change. Is to know what your comfort zone is and then pushing the edges of that. Because it was very, very timely for me to hear that podcast, because I was, in my 50s at the time and was quite comfortable. And, probably when we were doing our work, I really was comfortable in that body of work and what we were doing. But what happened was many things changed in the world, which is really important what we're talking about today. And so if I had stayed in my comfort zone, it would have shrunk and not been as useful to who I am and how I want to contribute. So I'm reminded all the time to push myself on those edges. So for example, this podcast is one of them, because there's no prep work. There's no roadmap. You know me. So this is really good as pushing my edge development around that. So the decision to do that is just, this is my opportunity. This is my edge. So I really appreciate that. And in the coaching world, continuing to grow my capacity there is getting on that edge so I can continue to make sure my coaching muscle doesn't start to become a little atrophied.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. There's an expression in CrossFit, something about, and it's similar to that comfort zone. Basically, you grow at you only grow if you push that envelope a little bit. If you always stay in your comfort zone and only do the comfort zone thing, like let's say do a workout that is my wheelhouse or something I'm really good at or like, then you'll never push those things that you're uncomfortable with to be able to grow that fitness. So if I like short workouts that are fast and heavy, I'm never going to be good at long distance running workouts because I always avoid them, that kind of thing. So yeah, you have to be okay. And we referenced this last week. I think we have to be okay being wobbly. We have to be okay being wobbly in the process. That it's not going to be easy the first time, and it might not look or feel great. But as long as you're setting the intention to put yourself out there and to try it on, to try it out, the next time is going to be a little bit better, a little bit better, a little bit better. And we've had similar experiences. If we didn't push the boundaries of what our work was, so let's say when we went from only in person to then virtual, we had to make a lot of adaptations. I even had to come up with a bunch of weird spreadsheets to make teams and groups work over time. We then went from that to, okay, now we can't have the 90-minute coaching circles. We've got to do it in an hour. So then you had to like shrink and compress again. So we had to find ways to fit into the new system. And those are uncomfortable. Letting go of all the practices, like, oh, we one time we had to like let go of all the practices. I'm like, no, we can't do that. It's the best one, or that one's important to this one. And that's a different level of growth that we wouldn't have experienced if we didn't have to try to fit the new model or fit the new mold, fit the new time frame. And it's super uncomfortable. Let go of assessments? Are you kidding me? You can't do that.
I think that what I pick up from that, and it's in everything, that we have to hold back things. Mm-hmm. We have to let go. That's the process to let in. I talk about an unlearning journey. This way of seeing things is unlearning. So you have to unlearn to relearn. And once we started to let go of that and grieve it a little bit, Ian, I do agree. We had to let go of some things that we really cherished and knew were value added. But given what we were being asked to do in the framework that people are able to participate, we had to let that go. And we continue to tweak and grow. And even the changing the conversation workshops, what it's opened up for us, because this is like, closing down, open up, is now we can take a piece and really play with it with others. And we can translate it. We've had to learn how to language it and translate it even more practically into the hands of others. So yeah, talk about getting out of our comfort zone. I think our capacity in our comfort zone is super expanded. So now we can use it in different ways. And so, but at first it's really, you got a grip on it, because you have a lot in there that you've invested in. And also that, it makes a difference. But in the environment, that's so interesting. If you're working in the new environment, which I feel is rapid these days, taking a read on that and serving it. So what great muscle development for all of us to be able to say, okay, the current state, there's the word. How do we support the current state? Because the old state has shifted. Yeah.
And without that adaptation, you're going to start beating your head up against the wall of trying to fit a square peg into a round hole. That's why I've really enjoyed what we've done with those workshops. We now have, I don't know, maybe a half dozen to whatever solid modules that fit within an hour that we're able to give people an experience. They learn a tool or two, and they walk out with something that they can tangibly try in their own personal conversations. By the way, if you want to try that out, the QR code's right there to take you to our next workshop, Intentional Pause, that'll be taking place on February 19th. So yeah, it's really cool. And to go into depth into those topics, so you're not skimming the surface. Well, in those larger workshops, they're great, but it's almost like you have like a 20-minute or whatever section, and you can't really dive deep. So this provides that space to breathe in order to really embody that work.
And I think we're honoring right now, there is so much coming at us, is honoring that we have capacity for this much room right now to take in something new, something that I want to learn. Really honoring that environment we're in. We're tired. Our brains are really consumed with so much. Our bodies are having to absorb. I really want to honor that because it's in me. Like it's me too. So it's alignment. There's another word that's coming up is we are aligning and following that, which is absolutely a coaching principle that you follow them and serve them with what they need right now, not feeling they need to have the big puzzle figured out right away. Is these bite-sized progressions and how they serve us in getting, to where we want to go. So I think the us giving into, I'm going to use those words, and maybe that's how I feel, but I think we both gave into, we have to let everything go, which meant total redesigning, which would, and once we got into it, we got to love it.
But I think that's the beauty of once you start to get okay being uncomfortable, you start being you can then play in that space more. So I mean, with any of our last, I would say at least half dozen series of workshops that we've done, so going back maybe 4 or 5 years probably, as we've gone through sessions, after day 1 we're already redesigning day 2, 3, and 4, because this group isn't where we thought they would be at this point in time. We had we kind of have a general plan, and then the plan goes out the window because you want to serve them where they are. So if we stuck to the plan and went from A to Z, we might have lost them. So what does the majority of the group need now? Okay, let's focus our energy and attention there. And then the next day, you're doing the same thing. What do they need now? What do they need now? And you're following the process. And that honors a coaching conversation in the same way. You may have an idea of where this might lead, but you really don't know until you follow them, because they're ultimately going to take you where you want to go. And if you're truly letting them lead the dance, you are back and forth with them, asking them questions to serve them, putting the wheel back in their hands. Where do you want to go? What do you want to do? And then they steer the conversation or steer the workshop. But you have to be okay as the coach to let go of the control of the wheel and follow where it goes.
I know what popped up is the willingness to listen to what you're seeing. And I say the word listen because it's everything. You have your head, your heart, your body's taking in, and being open to getting feedback. And sometimes the feedback might come back a little bit edgy or not really, you go, oh, okay, because they're mirroring how they feel. And so taking that in the moment and saying, okay, this is where they're at. This is how it's feeling to them. And us saying, okay, let's back up. Where do we need to be tomorrow to meet them where they are? Even though we know we laid it all down that particular session, it didn't get absorbed because we just talked about taking the shot. They're learning something that's a little bit really new and quite uncomfortable. So they're not absorbing everything. So it goes right back to the slowing down to meet them where they are. So we sometimes go, oh, it was right there today. It didn't get absorbed. So we know what to refocus on again to bring them along. So that's why the tweaking and the afterwards hearing where they're at, noticing things and us taking good observations really serves them, and it serves us well, because at the end of the day, thinking we've got the right strategy, no, we're going to push through, our plan works, that doesn't go so well.
Yeah. And if I think back to, sorry, if I like tie back in the story that you said with Paul, where you felt small, and you're bowing to him to lead this ship, right? Because you don't feel like you're adequate or up to snuff or at the level. It wasn't until we went through a few series of these that I would stop letting you lead, and I would start adding more giving more input, until I felt like I was an equal version of that. And it takes time to get there. But I wasn't, I mean, I would have deferred to you on almost everything at the beginning. It took a long time for me to be okay with, taking my shot or putting my thought out there or my idea. And it took a while to feel like I was your equal in this.
Can I ask, because I think it'd be helpful, I'm curious. I know now, I absolutely have seen, the evolution of that with you. What was it that, two things, you stayed in, and where you started to feel that shift for yourself? Do you have a sense of that?
Well, I think it took me a while to figure, like at the beginning, I felt like I had a subset of skills that you didn't have, and you had the others. So design, just experience in a group, being able to do quick redesigns on the fly, time keep, stuff like that, along with other things. And I felt like I was like the technical backbone. I could do all the graphics. I could do the behind the scenes stuff and still do the coaching stuff.
Right.
And then something happened, and I don't know if I can put my finger on the exact time that it happened, but I think it was just a gradual growth of probably like microscopic changes of times where I said something that I wouldn't normally have said, or got myself out of trouble when I could have been in a lot of trouble. Like that time when I spilled the beans and basically screwed up the entire exercise that we were doing, because I thought I knew the right pattern or sequence of events. And then I had to tell everybody exactly what was supposed to happen. So it took some really uncomfortable times and me putting myself out there in ways that I hadn't, that worked out. So it's building that confidence and competence in myself in being wobbly, that I was able to kind of, pad my stats a little bit and feel a little bit more equivalent. And it took a while for enough of those layers to have happened for me to feel like I was standing side by side. Mm-hmm. And like I said, there wasn't one, but it was probably dozens of, I don't know if this is going to work, but I'm going to try it anyways. And it worked out. So I think if you can get comfortable being uncomfortable in the stages where you are wobbly, you start to gain your footing. You start to raise your level and raise your game. And eventually you've climbed up the mountain enough to feel like you're part of the game. I know I'm mixing metaphors like crazy, but that's where, I think it's gradual. I mean, it's one thing to throw me in front of a room and hope. I don't know if that's going to make me feel level, but over time with enough experience, I think it starts to come together. And it really didn't hurt that you were often not propping me up, but giving me praise for because I'm my harshest critic. So when I fall short of what I think I should have done, we've always gone back and done little feedback sessions. So you've often propped me up that way, like, oh, you killed this, you're so good at that. And sometimes I wonder, am I really that good at that? I don't even know if I'm that good at it, because I ignore it. I focus on what I wasn't happy about or what didn't go my way or whatever. So just over time, that reinforcement of the things that you're good at, the things that you're doing, along with taking those actions, I think gave me enough confidence to stand side by side.
You said the word patient, and I love that. We are often wanting to get there somehow quickly. And that progressional, just what you described for yourself, it could, a series of things. I think that that's the key, is that it's never just one thing. So thank you for sharing that, because I've enjoyed the journey with you, and I can, the transformation is there now. It's just, but it was fun, being part of that and seeing you not give up. Really, you were persistent on, I'm going to try this one. I want to push myself on this one. And it was, like you said, baby steps, which I was going to loop back to this whole part about taking the shot. It's that effort to throw and be in the game. There's the word, be in the game. Step into the game, get off the sidelines, step into the game. And that wobbly, like, maybe not going to get, every basket isn't going to be there in the hoop, but that's not going to happen if I don't throw the ball.
Mm-hmm.
It's cool.
Yeah. There's, and it's funny, you'll like, on a team, you'll have people who don't want to take that shot, who are comfortable being on for the ride. And then there's the guy who's like, give me the ball. I want the ball. But it takes that practice to get to that place where you're the guy saying, I want it. Give me the shot. Let me take the shot.
Well, one of our taglines, practice makes permanent.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think that ties in really well with what, like, my journey with you in this work together is that not only did I start learning to take my own shots and being okay taking them, but we took them together. Yeah. Right. You need a good assist man to have a good shooter. You don't have the ball, you can't shoot. So, I mean, you kept asking, hey, you want to do another thing? I'm like, okay, let's do another thing.
All right,
I don't know if it's going to mean anything, or if it's going to become anything or not, but if we do a thing, maybe it'll become a thing. So we did the thing. Cool. Over and over again. So this is the new thing. Final thoughts on taking the shot, Karen?
I just think my last one, like, you know what? You got to get off the sidelines and have the ball in your hand. Like, it's time, get off the bench, take the shot.
Yeah. Awesome. I think with that, we'll leave it there. We'll be back next week. Not sure what the topic is, but in a couple of weeks, again, we have that workshop coming up, intentional pause. QR codes in the top left-hand corner take you to that page to give you instructions on registration. So with that, we'll see you next Thursday.
So far, it's open.
All right. Awesome. Take care, everybody. See you then.
Bye.